He can cook a shoe and it'll taste delicious. You don't even have to bring your own, he says. And that's neat. It's Tom White. This is Teaching to the Test Pattern.
Hey, buddy, what's happening? This is Teaching to the Test Pattern. I'm Tom White, and it has been a while. Look, I'm sorry. The last 2 weeks of May were tough. The whole month of June was relatively tough. Here it is, July 6, 2020, and we are back. Going to give you an update on what's been going on. Going to talk about what's coming up and, just kind of let you know what's happening. It's been a while. Before we get started, though, I want to thank my sponsor, the only sponsor I have. I don't have hours and hours of sponsor reads. Amatrace, AMITRACE.com. They're the only sponsor I have because they're the only ones that are worthy of this sponsorship position. Seriously, I don't know. I've thought about other sponsors that I would maybe ask, and no one is doing as much for education in the video space as Amatrace. I'm sorry. I mean, they're just not doing it. Amatrace, known all over the Southeast for their work in education and video production and at the civic level. They've done some stuff at different county and city and state organizations, and some of my best friends in the whole wide world, that's the first place they call us, Amatrace, AMITRACE.com. Go check out the website, see what all they do. If you're looking to get your program to the next level, don't be a dummy. I was a dummy. I did it myself. I wasted money. I wasted time. I wasted stress, and I didn't get trained. Amatrace, AMITRACE.com. Go check them out today. Thank you again for their sponsorship of Teaching to the Test Pattern.
Teaching to the Test Pattern.
So what's been going on? 2020. Man, started this podcast in January. Thought it's going to be a great time. I'm going to do some really cool stuff. I'm going to go to Vegas. I'm going to interview a bunch of people. And then in May, I'm going to go to Atlanta. And I'm going to interview a bunch of people. And I'm going to have 500 episodes because I'm just going to talk to so many. And then Corona. And I'm not going to complain about it because really there's nothing you can do about it. But what that meant was I did a really good job during the Corona lockdown. I did a good job. I mean, I did the best I could with my kids. We did some news shows. We did a daily for about 3 weeks. We did a weekly for about 6 weeks. And then we got out of there. Do I think the kids learned everything they could have? Absolutely not. Am I upset about that? No. But that said, it took a toll on me creatively because I was tapped. And I was tapped for several reasons, not the least of which was just frustration trying to do things that I shouldn't have been trying to do. I shouldn't have been trying to keep up that pace, that torrid pace that I was keeping up while the kids were in school. That was a dumb thing. So that's all behind us. Let's talk about what's happened since last I talked to you. Graduations have happened, and I've gone on vacation, and Camp T&I happened. My superintendent retired, and I've started preparing for next year. So it's been crazy. We'll start with graduations. I actually did 2 graduations this year. I did my own high school and then a buddy of mine in a neighboring county. Not a streaming guy, so he asked for help, and I was like, yeah, I want to stream something. So went and helped him. It was a traditional-ish graduation. Graduates were on the field, spaced 6 feet apart, individual chairs. It was interesting because there was no procession. The kids came in, they checked in, they went to their seat, they sat in their seat. The graduation happened, and the big bang, the only time you heard pomp and circumstance is when they walked off the field. And then it was interesting because they walked them all the way to their cars, all the way to the parking lot. Not even normally it's oh, we'll get to the end of the football field and goodbye, deuces, you're out, whatever. No, all the way to the parking lot. So that was interesting. For that show, we did 3 cameras. We used Wirecast. We used a point-to-point system. Adam's got a pretty good relationship there with his IT people, a point-to-point system. If you've never used one, go look it up. Ubiquity, shoot me a message. I will help you. Ubiquity is the one I recommend. It's the one I've bought and used for almost a decade now. But definitely a good experience. It was a lot of fun. I got to see some old friends, make some new friends, and just hang out on a Saturday morning and shoot video, man. It felt good. It did. It felt really good just to get that itch scratched. My own high school was different. We did our graduation the week of the originally scheduled graduation. And notice I said the week because it took us 3 days. It was awesome. It was amazing. It was wonderful. I hope it never happens again. So the plan was each student would walk across the stage and get their diploma. That was the plan. And my principal said to me when we were in the planning, she goes, Tom, we got to put a period on this sentence. And I was like, yeah, because that's the leadership we need. So the plan was really, the whole thing was really cool. Like, if it didn't take 3 days, I would say we do it every year because it was so much more special for the graduate and their family. So here's the plan. Each graduate got 4 cars. They could put as many people in those cars as they wanted. They could literally pack them out. We had one graduate that we counted 38 people and 4 dogs. So we counted as 42 attendees plus the graduate. So really 43 people in 4 pickup trucks. There were church buses. There were rental vans. And then there were the kids who you could tell that their parents had just moved into town or what have you, where it's just one car. And each and every one of them got a very special thing. So they got 4 cars. They could do with them what they wanted. The way our building was set up, they would park in the parking lot and get staged. And when it was their turn, they would pull up and they would drop the graduate off. And we had an unintended thing happen. We'd rolled out a big red carpet because the graduate was going to walk through the building one last time because they didn't get that experience. And we'd done this big Main Street thing with all pictures and that kind of stuff. I mean, if the kids had been in the system their entire high school or their entire school career, their kindergarten yearbook photos were on the wall. I mean, really, really cool thing. So they would walk through the building. The rest of the car caravan would go around to the other side of the building. They would just drive. They would go to the other side of the building where we had a stage with the superintendent and a board member and the principal, and families could come with about 10 feet of the stage. The graduate would come out the door. Pomp and Circumstance would play. The graduate would come out the door. They would get to the stage. The superintendent would say that, the superintendent thing about, da-da-da-da-da, power vested in me, so forth and so on. And then graduate would walk across the stage, get their diploma, get their picture with the photographer. I was there ground level shooting them, walking across the stage, pause with the principal, and walk off. Well, the cool thing was then they had like 3 minutes. Really 3 minutes. We gave them 4. Well, that was the plan, but by the time they got it done, it was 3 minutes. Then they went away. And while they were doing their picture thing, the next graduate's family pulled up. So you had 8 cars staged in front of the stage, and as family 1 would pull off, family 2 would get out and come stand in front of the stage and repeat 211 times. Again, really cool. As the video guy, my job was to not only make sure I captured every one of them, but make sure that I got them in a way that looked good, which was tough because we started at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it went till 9 o'clock at night. So obviously there's going to be some light changes. But the great part about my administration was the first thing they said was, when should we do it? And we looked at the sun, and we're like, okay, well, that way faces west. We need to do it that direction. So we could keep the sun on the stage and on our backs as long as we could. It was hot. It wasn't bad. I mean, anytime you do something 200 times, it's kind of, it's tough. But it was good. It was very good. I did the valedictorian, and we had 2 salutatorians because they couldn't break the tie. They did their speeches. I set up a big thing in the media center. The superintendent did a speech. The principal did a speech, and I put it all together. And the final graduate walked across stage on Friday at about 5 o'clock, and the video aired about 8:45, 9 o'clock that night. It took about 3 hours for the render to happen. some things I learned during that process, things I knew, but it just kind of reinforced. When you're in Premiere Pro, there are so many shortcuts that can make your life so easy. Two that I remembered as I was going through, one is the Q button and the other is the W button. I figured out that there was a cadence in the superintendent's presentation as well as what the principal would do as the graduate would walk across. So the principal, he would have this big chest swelling, give this graduate their diploma. Well, in an audio file, that was a plateau. It literally was a plateau. So I could look at that file and go, okay, there's the plateau, put my cursor there, hit Q. And what that does for that clip is it takes everything in front of the playhead and deletes it, not deletes it, but cuts it out and ripple deletes to the previous clip. All right. So I was like, well, this is easy. And then I was like, oh, well, there's the W key, which does the back end. And every time a graduate would come to our principal, they'd stop, she'd hand them their diploma. And to some, she would have a conversation with, and she was wearing a mask, so no one could really see what the conversation was. And some of them were really like, y'all know how graduations are, man. They're tough to watch sometimes because you know the story of these kids. And there were a couple where we had to have extra time because the kid walked across and we were all crying. But she did this arm sweep. So I knew that when that arm sweep happened that the graduate was about to walk off. So that was my cue, and I would hit W, and it would do the same thing. It would take what was left in that clip, remove it, and ripple delete the next clip to it. So the first 2 nights we did the first 3 nights we did about 80 students. Or I guess the first 2 nights did about 80 students, and to edit 80 students took about 20 minutes. So that was pretty freaking cool. I was pretty excited about that. So we had that. That was really awesome. Parents were really, really excited about it. Like I said, I loved it. It was special. It was awesome. Some of my kids, I had a young man who I've taught for 4 years. His entire high school career, he knew Mr. White. Being that close to them when they graduate and being able to make eye contact and, hey man, I'm proud of you, kind of under the breath stuff that you couldn't do in a normal graduation was pretty cool. So I got through that. And then after that, I think the thing that hurt me most, besides not being in school, was the fact that when in terms of COVID, was Camp T&I. Camp T&I is a professional development event here in Georgia. It's Camp T&I stands for Trade and Industry, and it's kind of all the dirty career tech jobs. It's automotive, it's construction, it's plumbing, it's graphics, it's heating and air, and it's us, video teachers. Camp T&I is usually held in Brunswick, Georgia, which is right at the coast, and teachers from all over the state get together. Last year, we had 75 teachers there live, and these 75 teachers, mean the world to me. They're teachers who guided me when I first started teaching and teachers who I stole things from when I first started teaching. And they're teachers who are brand new. We have, each year we have teachers who have not even taught yet at Camp T&I. And it's a hands-on training. It's, in its original form, it's 3 classrooms of sessions that are all happening at the same time, taught by teachers that are teaching topics that the attendees have asked for, and occasionally bring in other people via Skype and that kind of stuff. But it's hands-on, it's equipment, it's classroom, it's lessons, it's all kinds of stuff. Obviously, we couldn't meet this year. All of our state trainings through December have to be virtual. So then we spent, I spent a while trying to figure out how to make that happen. Part of my role in the state is that I program those things. And after a lot of deliberation and just prayer, I came up with this plan of a mixture of Zoom meetings or Google Meets meetings and YouTube, and how to get, because not everybody, we're all video production teachers. Graduations are a big thing for us. We're going to be working most likely. So I scheduled beginning the week prior to my graduations, and then the 2 weeks between graduation and the scheduled T&I, and then the week of T&I, Zoom meetings, almost 30 of them. And I say Zoom because that's like Kleenex, but most of them were Google Meets. And I'll talk more about that later. But it was the presentations presented by the teachers, and it was awesome. I mean, some of them we had 50, 60, 70 people on. There were 98 people registered and 90 almost finished. I want to say it was 89 people did the full training. Now, the full training typically in the summer is 20 hours of credit. Obviously, we weren't going to do that. They had to do 8 hours. And I learned some new stuff with that. I learned about a tool called PlayPosit. I had seen it before, but I went ahead and dove in and bought the full edition, and I was blown away. I'm going to do an entire episode on PlayPosit because they're not paying me. I paid them. It was amazing. It was awesome. Really helped me, and it's something I'm going to use in my classroom. So it's definitely something to help that I feel like I should share with you. So that was Camp TNI, and man, that was refreshing. It was refreshing to see my loved ones' faces. I mean, I really do feel like I have my wife and kids, but then I have my teaching family, and to see my loved ones' faces, and there were people that the only time I see is at Camp TNI, and to be able to meet that need was tremendous. It was energizing, but it was still taxing. So after that, man, I was burned out. Balancing, making sure everybody is checked in, making sure that my presenters have everything they need, making sure that my teachers in attendance have what they need, making sure it's posted, all of that. I was burned out. So I took some vacation. One of the things that I've definitely focused on, really it started in 2019, but definitely carried over into 2020, is taking care of myself mentally and physically and emotionally. So I went on vacation, and we were supposed to take my daughter to New York. Obviously not going to do that. So we gave her the option. We're like, anywhere you want to go other than New York or, LA or any of that. And she chose Anderson, South Carolina. I was like, oh, okay, well, she actually chose Lake Hartwell, and then I chose Anderson, South Carolina. But she chose Lake Hartwell. She was like, we just need to get away and have a break and go to the lake and do fun stuff. And I was like, okay. So Anderson, South Carolina, about 15 miles into the state of South Carolina from Georgia on I-85. We rented a house, and if we hadn't left that house, we wouldn't have seen anybody for a week. It was great. The kids played in the lake all day long. I played the lake a little bit, got in a kayak. Man, I forgot how much I loved kayaking. I got to get back into college shape before I can get back into a kayak because that wasn't the best experience. But definitely was nice to take care of myself, get away from everything. And it was interesting, too, because throughout the pandemic, one of my roles was to really engage with the county and city administrators to help them with their video products. Morgan County is a rural county. They don't have a TV station. They don't really have a way to get news out to the community quickly, other than what we could provide. The newspaper is published once a week, and then there's social media. So spent a lot of time doing that, and that on top of graduations, on top of Camp TNI, made it pretty tough. But what was really cool was that I got to be a part of our superintendent's he's retiring from education, but he's really transitioning. He's going to work for the FFA, and all of their conventions their state conventions were taken online. So he and I worked together over really the last several weeks of the fiscal year, really May till end of June, to produce a custom video announcement for 33 state conventions. It was a lot of fun. The workflow was pretty simple. Basically, we tried originally to just cut one video for the main portion because the only part that was custom was truly the first 2 or 3 minutes, and then the last 6 minutes or so were just a boilerplate, for lack of a better descriptor. We tried to do that, tried to match it. It was like, no, let's just do this. So what we did was he would come in, he would start to finish one of the states, and then he would finish that. I wouldn't even stop the recording. I'd scroll down on my teleprompter, show him the names for the next state. He would do the next state. And then basically I would go in to Premiere later and cut that and key it because he shot it in our studio. So now just kind of, man, I'm back in the swing of things. I'm feeling creative. I'm looking at, the time here as I record, and I'm almost at 20 minutes because I'm so excited to be back. I'm so excited to be energized by creativity and by sharing things. I'm preparing for next school year. I don't know what it looks like. I really don't. I'm going to do an episode about it here, maybe in a couple of minutes, because I'm just kind of feeling it and want to get those ideas out and hopefully help you get ready for next year, whatever that may look like for you. But definitely want to thank you for listening. I've missed you. I've missed the creativity. I'm so glad to be back and be creative and having some fun and getting ready for the 2021 school year. It's been a wild ride. 2020 has, and I'm really excited to get back and see some kids, man. I miss being in the classroom. I miss creating things that matter. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for listening. Again, this one's a little bit longer than I typically like to go, but I felt it was a pretty important one. Thank you again to our sponsors, Amatrace, AMITRACE.com. Give them a call if you need video stuff, period. You're going to find similar prices. I mean, their prices are on par with everything in the world, but you're not going to find better training. You're not going to get that. You're not going to, anyways, Amatrace, AMITRACE.com. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. And as always, go make some awesome.
Teaching to the test pattern.